A quiet truth changes everything. Wealth does not suddenly appear on the day money enters your life. It does not begin with a large bank balance. It does not begin with expensive cars, luxury homes, or a perfect moment where everything finally comes together. The part most people never see is that wealth usually starts long before any visible results appear. Long before success becomes obvious, long before people start noticing, long before anyone says you are doing well, a hidden process begins inside a person. Small shifts start happening. Thoughts begin changing. Priorities begin changing. Habits slowly start moving in a different direction. And many people completely miss these signs because they are too busy looking at the outside world. They are watching other people. They are watching money. They are watching success stories after they become visible. But the real story starts much earlier than that. Some of the wealthiest people in the world shared one interesting pattern. Their lives did not suddenly transform overnight. Before the results came, there were changes that almost looked unimportant. Some started becoming more protective of their time. Some lost interest in things that once entertained them. Some felt uncomfortable living the same way they had always lived. Some even felt confused because their old life no longer felt right, but their new life had not arrived yet. That stage feels strange because nothing outside changes immediately. Your bank account may still look the same. Your routine may still look the same. People around you may still see the same version of you. But deep inside, another process has already started moving. And this hidden stage is where many people quit because they think nothing is happening. They believe progress only exists when results can be seen. But nature itself follows a different rule. A seed stays underground before anyone sees growth. During that time, many people would think nothing is happening because they only trust what their eyes can see. But underneath the surface, roots are forming, strength is forming, a foundation is being built. The most interesting part is that some people experience these changes without even realizing what they mean. They start feeling different but cannot explain why. They become more careful about how they spend their energy. They begin questioning old habits. They stop finding excitement in things that once felt important. And many times they think they are becoming distant, confused, or disconnected. But what if those changes are not signs of losing direction? What if they are signs of moving toward a completely different life? What if the process of building wealth starts with becoming a different person before becoming a richer person? Because the truth is that money usually follows patterns, and patterns begin with behavior. In this video, you are going to learn the hidden signs that many people experience before major success enters their lives. Some of these signs are so quiet that most people ignore them. Some of them even feel uncomfortable. You will discover why feeling out of place can sometimes mean growth is happening, why certain changes in your mindset matter more than money itself, and why some of the habits you are developing right now may already be pointing toward a different future. You will also learn about lesser-known patterns connected to successful people that most conversations never discuss, because success stories usually focus on the ending while ignoring the beginning. People see the celebration but never see the silent phase that came before it. They see the reward but not the transformation that created it. And one of the signs near the end of this video may completely change the way you see yourself, because many people experience it without understanding what it actually means. So stay with me until the end, because one small realization can completely shift how you look at your own journey. The signs you are about to hear may reveal that progress has already started, even if results have not shown up yet. And before we continue, welcome to our channel, where we explore powerful ideas about mindset, growth, success, and the hidden truths that shape our lives. If you enjoy content that helps you think differently and move toward a better future, subscribe to the channel and join us on this journey. Now let us begin. The interesting part is that the earliest signs of future wealth almost never look like wealth. Most people expect a dramatic moment. They expect a large opportunity, a sudden breakthrough, or a day when everything changes at once. They think success arrives like a loud announcement. One day struggling, next day successful. One day ordinary, next day rich. But life rarely moves that way. The beginning is usually quiet, almost invisible. And because it is quiet, people miss it. They keep waiting for proof, while the process has already started inside them. The biggest sign of future wealth is usually not money. It is behavior. It is the way a person starts thinking. It is the way they react to life. It is the small decisions they make every day when nobody is watching. Months before a person's life changes, the person often begins changing first. Years before success becomes visible, invisible changes start taking place. Their mindset shifts, their priorities shift. Their habits slowly begin moving in a different direction. And because the change is happening internally, Most people around them do not notice anything. From the outside, they still look normal. They still wake up in the same room. They still go through the same routine. They still live in the same environment. But internally, a completely different story is being written. The strange part is that people experiencing these changes often become confused. They feel different but cannot explain why. They feel disconnected from the things that once made them comfortable. They feel like they no longer fit perfectly into the old version of themselves. And that feeling can become uncomfortable because humans naturally want certainty. Humans want to know exactly where they are going, but growth does not always give clear answers immediately. Sometimes growth starts with discomfort before it creates clarity. One of the first signs appears in a very simple way. Staying average starts feeling uncomfortable. Things that once felt normal no longer feel good. The routine that once felt acceptable starts feeling heavy. Days begin to feel repetitive. You wake up, do the same things, think the same thoughts, and suddenly a question starts appearing in your mind. A question that becomes difficult to ignore. There has to be more than this. Not because you suddenly hate your life, not because you think you are better than anyone else, but because a part of you begins wanting growth. A part of you begins wanting movement. You start feeling like your current situation no longer matches the person you are becoming. And this feeling creates an internal conflict. Because on one side there is comfort, familiar routines, familiar habits, familiar people, familiar patterns. And on the other side there is uncertainty, change, growth, new possibilities. The mind naturally wants to stay comfortable because comfort feels safe. But growth rarely stays inside comfort for very long. That is why many people who later become successful describe a period where they felt restless. Not physically restless, mentally restless. They started feeling like time was moving, but they were standing still. They started feeling like they were capable of more, but could not yet fully see the path ahead. This feeling often shows up in very small moments. You sit with people discussing the same problems every day, and suddenly the conversation feels empty. You spend hours doing things that once entertained you, and suddenly it feels like time disappeared for no reason. You notice yourself asking deeper questions. Why am I doing this? Where is this leading me? What kind of future am I creating? Questions like these begin quietly. They do not arrive with noise. They do not arrive with excitement. They appear slowly, almost like a whisper in the background of your mind. And at first, many people ignore them. They distract themselves. They tell themselves they are overthinking. They tell themselves everything is fine. But eventually, the feeling grows stronger. Because once your mind begins expanding, it becomes difficult to force it back into smaller spaces. People often mistake this stage for dissatisfaction, but many times it is actually awareness. Awareness changes everything because once you become aware of wasted potential, it becomes difficult to stay comfortable with it. You begin noticing patterns that once felt normal. You notice how often time disappears. You notice how many things pull your attention away from meaningful goals. You notice how easily days turn into weeks and weeks turn into years. Suddenly time feels more valuable than before because you start realizing something important. Life keeps moving whether you move with it or not. Then another shift slowly begins. You stop thinking only about today. You stop chasing quick rewards. You stop looking for instant excitement. Because a different question starts entering your mind. What will this do for me 1 year from now? Then another question appears. What will this do for me 5 years from now? Most people naturally think about immediate results. Immediate pleasure feels good because it creates fast satisfaction. Fast results feel exciting. Humans are built to respond strongly to rewards that happen right now. That is why distractions are powerful. That is why quick entertainment is powerful. That is why temporary comfort often wins against long-term goals. But people moving toward wealth often begin developing a different way of thinking. Their minds slowly start stretching further into the future. Instead of asking what feels good right now, they begin asking what creates value later. They start thinking differently about decisions. They think differently about time. They think differently about habits. A simple choice no longer feels simple. Watching random content for hours no longer feels like harmless entertainment because another thought begins appearing. What could this time become if invested differently? The focus slowly changes from immediate pleasure toward future outcomes. And this shift feels strange because the rewards are invisible at first. Future thinking requires patience. It requires trusting a process before results appear. That can feel difficult because humans naturally want evidence. People want proof that their effort matters. They want proof that sacrifices are working. But future thinking often asks for belief before evidence appears. This is why many people stop too early. They want immediate results from actions that require time. They plant seeds and expect trees tomorrow. They start learning a skill and expect mastery next week. They start improving habits and expect life-changing results instantly. But wealth often follows a different timeline. The strongest changes usually happen slowly, and people who begin thinking long-term understand this. They stop measuring progress day by day. They begin thinking in months. They begin thinking in years, because they understand that small actions repeated consistently create outcomes that eventually look massive. Then another quiet shift starts happening. You become protective of your time, not because you suddenly become serious all the time, not because you stop enjoying life, but because your relationship with time begins changing. You start noticing how quickly hours disappear. You begin realizing that attention is valuable. Every day people compete for your attention. Notifications compete for it. Entertainment competes for it. Random opinions compete for it. Distractions compete for it. And suddenly you become more careful about where your attention goes. Meaningless scrolling starts feeling different. Endless distractions start feeling different. Unnecessary drama starts feeling exhausting. You become more selective. You begin asking yourself whether certain things deserve access to your time. Many people never think deeply about time because they believe they always have more of it. Tomorrow feels guaranteed. Next week feels guaranteed. Next year feels guaranteed. But eventually a realization starts growing inside some people. Time is the only resource that never returns. Money lost can be earned again. Opportunities lost can sometimes return. But time moves in one direction. Once an hour disappears, it disappears forever. And this awareness changes behavior. You begin noticing how often people spend energy on things that add no value. Arguments with no purpose. Endless complaining. Problems repeated without solutions. Hours spent consuming information that creates no growth. And slowly you begin pulling away from these patterns. Not because you think you are better than others, but because your priorities start changing. You begin protecting your energy, because you understand energy creates focus. Focus creates progress. Progress creates opportunities, and opportunities create change. The interesting part is that from the outside, this behavior sometimes looks boring. People may not understand it. They may think you changed. They may think you became distant. They may think you became too focused. But internally, you simply started understanding a rule that many people learn too late. Time creates money before money creates freedom. Before financial freedom appears, time is invested. Before opportunities appear, effort is invested. Before results appear, attention is invested. And slowly, without realizing it, the person you are becoming begins looking very different from the person you used to be. Failure starts looking different. Not easy, not enjoyable, not exciting. People who are moving toward growth still hate failing. The disappointment still hurts. The frustration still appears. The feeling of putting effort into something and watching it collapse still feels heavy. Nobody wakes up hoping to fail. Nobody enjoys seeing plans break apart. Nobody enjoys watching hard work produce results that feel smaller than expected. That part never completely disappears, but a quiet shift begins happening inside your mind. Failure slowly loses the power to control you. Earlier in life, failure often feels like a final answer. It feels personal. It feels like evidence that you are not good enough, not smart enough, not talented enough, or not capable enough. One bad result suddenly starts speaking for your entire future. One mistake feels like a permanent label. Many people stay trapped there because they begin building their identity around moments that were never meant to define them. They fail once and begin calling themselves failures. They make mistakes and begin believing they are mistakes. But people moving toward wealth often begin seeing failure through a different lens. The event itself may still hurt, but the meaning attached to it changes. Instead of asking why this is happening to me, another question starts appearing. What is this teaching me? That question changes everything because questions control focus. When you ask why life is hurting you, your mind starts searching for evidence that you are unlucky. Your mind starts collecting proof that the world is unfair. But when you ask what this is teaching me, your mind starts searching for information. It starts looking for patterns. It starts looking for mistakes that can be corrected. It starts looking for lessons hidden inside pain. Slowly you begin noticing that almost every successful person has stories that never appear in headlines. People see success after it becomes visible. They see the finished result. They see achievements. They see money. They see confidence. But they rarely see rejection. They rarely see failed attempts. They rarely see nights filled with doubt. They rarely see moments where people question themselves. Every success story usually contains chapters that nobody celebrates. chapters where plans failed, chapters where effort looked wasted, chapters where nothing seemed to work. And yet those moments often become the reason success eventually appears. Because failure has a strange way of exposing weaknesses that comfort never reveals. Comfort hides problems. Success can hide problems, but failure forces truth into the open. It shows gaps in knowledge. It shows weak habits. It shows blind spots. It shows areas where growth still needs to happen. You start realizing that failure is not always a wall blocking your path. Sometimes it is a sign pointing toward a better path. Sometimes it redirects you towards skills you never planned to learn. Sometimes it pushes you towards stronger discipline. Sometimes it forces patience into your life. Sometimes it introduces lessons that success alone could never teach. And little by little, fear starts changing shape. Earlier, fear stopped movement completely. Fear said, do not try because you might fail. Fear said, stay where things feel safe. Fear said, avoid risk because discomfort feels dangerous. But now fear starts becoming quieter. Because another thought slowly grows stronger. Staying the same becomes scarier than failing. Repeating the same year again becomes scarier than making mistakes. Looking back years later and realizing nothing changed becomes scarier than temporary discomfort. Then another shift begins showing itself. Learning stops feeling like work and starts feeling like discovery. You become curious in a different way. Earlier, learning often felt connected to obligation, school assignments, tests, deadlines, information memorized because it was required. But now knowledge starts becoming exciting. You begin searching for answers naturally. Questions begin appearing in your mind, and instead of ignoring them, you start chasing them. You start reading things you never cared about before. You start paying attention to ideas that once seemed boring. You start becoming interested in skills, habits, psychology, money, communication, productivity, business, and personal growth. Small pieces of information begin connecting together like puzzle pieces. One idea leads to another idea. One lesson opens the door to 10 more lessons. You notice something interesting happening. Information begins changing the way you see the world. Situations that once looked random begin making sense. Patterns start becoming visible. You start noticing how certain habits create certain outcomes. You start noticing how thoughts influence actions and actions influence results. You begin realizing that people are not simply given different lives by chance alone. Daily choices matter more than they appear. Repeated actions matter more than they appear. Tiny decisions matter more than they appear. And knowledge starts becoming valuable because knowledge changes decisions. You begin understanding something deep inside yourself. The person you become creates the money you earn. Earlier, money may have looked like the goal itself. Earlier, you may have thought money was simply collected, found, or received. But slowly, another understanding begins appearing. Income often follows value. Value often follows skills. Skills often follow learning. And learning follows curiosity. Suddenly, the focus shifts. Instead of only asking, how do I make more money? Another question appears. How do I become more valuable? How do I become someone capable of creating bigger results? Because a person with stronger skills thinks differently. A person with stronger discipline acts differently. A person with stronger knowledge sees opportunities differently. You begin noticing that successful people are often obsessed with learning long after they become successful. That surprises many people because they assume success creates comfort. They assume success removes the need for growth. But many people who achieve great things continue learning because growth itself becomes part of who they are. Curiosity becomes part of who they are. Improvement becomes part of who they are. Knowledge stops feeling like a task and starts feeling like fuel. And while these changes happen, another interesting shift quietly appears. You stop needing constant approval. Earlier, approval may have felt important. You wanted people to understand your decisions. You wanted support. You wanted agreement. You wanted reassurance that you were moving in the right direction. Human beings naturally want acceptance because acceptance feels safe. It feels good knowing people agree with you. It feels good knowing people support your ideas. But eventually a difficult truth begins becoming clear. Not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will understand your goals. Not everyone will understand the person you are becoming. You become quieter, not because you lose confidence, not because you stop caring about people, but because you stop feeling the need to explain every step. You stop announcing every plan. You stop searching for permission before taking action. Earlier, every idea may have felt like something that needed validation. You wanted people to say it sounds good. You wanted people to say you are making the right choice. But slowly you understand that opinions change constantly. People see life through their own experiences. People judge through their own fears. People give advice through their own limits. You begin protecting your goals the same way people protect fragile things while they are growing. Because not every dream survives constant exposure to doubt. Sometimes ideas need space before they become strong. Sometimes growth needs silence. Sometimes progress needs privacy. And you begin realizing that building something important often feels lonely. Not because you are truly alone, but because transformation creates distance between old patterns and new patterns. You may notice conversations changing. You may notice interests changing. You may notice priorities changing. Certain environments may start feeling smaller than before. Certain habits may start feeling empty. Certain relationships may begin feeling different. Then the biggest sign begins appearing. This is the sign that quietly sits behind all the others. You start becoming someone new. Not overnight, not through one decision, not through one motivational moment. Change rarely works that way. It happens slowly, almost too slowly to notice at first. One habit changes, then another habit changes. One thought changes, then another thought changes. One choice changes, then another choice changes. And over time, those small shifts begin creating a different identity. You are no longer trying to become disciplined. Discipline slowly becomes normal. You are no longer trying to think differently. Different thinking becomes natural. You are no longer forcing yourself to change. Change begins happening automatically because your standards start changing. Your expectations start changing. The things you tolerate start changing. The things you accept start changing. The way you spend time starts changing. The way you speak starts changing. The way you see yourself starts changing. And somewhere in the middle of all of this, without fully realizing it, you begin walking further away from the person you used to be and closer toward the person you were slowly becoming all along. Maybe the money has not arrived yet. Maybe the results are still invisible. Maybe you are working, learning, changing, and wondering if any of it is even making a difference. Because sometimes the hardest part of the journey is not working hard. The hardest part is continuing when there is no proof in front of you. Continuing when progress feels quiet. Continuing when nobody notices. Continuing when life still looks the same on the outside. But remember this, seeds grow underground before anyone sees them. For a long time, nothing appears on the surface. No visible change, no visible reward, no visible evidence. Yet beneath the ground, roots are growing stronger every single day. And the same thing happens in life. Your discipline is growing, your mindset is changing, your habits are changing, your standards are changing. Even if you cannot see it yet, you are becoming a different person. And sometimes wealth is not the first thing that arrives. First comes the thinking, first comes the behavior, first comes the transformation. Because wealth is not only something you get, sometimes it is something you become before it ever becomes something you have. So if you are seeing these signs in yourself, keep learning, keep building, keep moving forward even on the days that feel slow. Keep going even when nobody claps for you. Keep going even when results seem far away. Because one day you may look back and realize that the life you wanted did not begin when money arrived. It began the moment you started changing. If this message connected with you, subscribe to the channel and become part of this journey with us. Like this video so more people can discover it. Share it with someone who is building quietly and fighting battles nobody sees. And tell me in the comments which sign felt most real to you. Your future may already be forming in ways you cannot see yet. And this could be only the beginning.